Friends, a very warm welcome to Unsarkari. And in the series of environmental concepts, themes, and ideas, we have reached to pollution. That is what we can say is environmental pollutants and toxicology. So I can just classify. First, we have taken a lot of concepts, beginning from what environment itself to ecology, ecotone, niche, population, and so on. And then we went on to think about ecosystems. In the ecosystems, we went on to talk about terrestrial, aquatic, and so forth. Then we have discussed in very details pollutions. In that series, environmental pollutants and toxicology is very important. You must correlate it with the current affairs. And most importantly, this understanding can help you to even bring certain applications in the mains examination. So let's start and understand the key themes and examples. Water pollution. So the great solvent power of water makes the creation of absolutely pure water a theoretical rather than a practical goal. Even the highest quality distilled water contains dissolved gases and to a slight degree solids. That means theoretically it is impossible to have purest of pure water. The problem therefore is one of determining the what quality of water is needed to meet a given purpose and then finding practical means of achieving that quality. Very true. I agree with this, and that is what developing countries like India are facing. The problem is further compounded because every use to which water is put, washing, irrigation, flushing away waste, cooling, making paper, adds something to the water. And in fact, for several centuries, rivers and lakes have been used as dumping grounds for human sewage and industrial waste. Go and check out Namami Gange program. Go and check out the Supreme Courts and High Courts, judgments seeing that the rivers are living gods. They are the living deities. Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati. Industrial waste of every conceivable kind. Many of them are hugely toxic, and added to these are the materials leached. Okay, leached and transported from land by water, percolating through soil. Percolating through the soil and running off its surface to aquatic ecosystems. यानी सारा काम हो गया. हर चीज को बचाना बहुत जरूरी है, लेकिन उतना ही मुश्किल है. So the term water pollution is referred to any type of aquatic contamination between the two extremes, a highly enriched, overproducted biocommunity such as a river or lake with nutrients from sewage or fertilizers, that is called cultural eutrophication. So overproduction a biotic community is facing, it will be leading to cultural eutrophication, or a body poisoned by toxic chemicals which eliminate living organisms or even exclude all forms of life. Normally water contains two types of impurities, dissolved and suspended. Dissolved impurities are gases like hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide, nitric acid, and even minerals like calcium, magnesium, sodium, and different kind of salts. Hydrochloric acid also we can say. Suspended materials includes clay, silt, and sand, and even microbes. So polluted waters are turbid, that we agree, unpleasant, foul-smelling, unfit for drinking, bathing, and washing and other purposes. They are harmful and the means of many diseases such as cholera, dysentery, typhoid, and hepatitis. That also we agree, we have studied it. Now, types of water pollution may be classified by the medium in which they occur, such as surface water pollution, groundwater pollution, soil water pollution, and the habitat in which they occur, such as river pollution, lake, estuarine, coastal water, open ocean, and the source also, such as nutrient, bacterial, viral, metallic, petrochemical, pesticide, thermal, radioactive. So draw a Venn diagram, I mean to say draw a pie chart and try to divide it, or draw a mind map and try to give examples also of each type in India. So where India is facing maximum groundwater pollution in which state? Soil water pollution is increasing in which state? River pollution, where a model state we can take up where the efforts have been made. What about open ocean pollution? Similarly, the nutrient pollution. So you can just do this exercise so that in the mains examination you can use it in general studies paper 3 and also in essay and ethics if it is required. Pollutants entering water sources are classified broadly into the following categories: domestic sewage and oxygen demanding wastes. Oxygen demanding waste, which will seep oxygen away. That means all kind of biodegradable and all kind of organic wastes. Infectious agents, plant nutrients, chemicals such as insecticides, herbicides, detergents, and other minerals, and chemical sediments from land erosions, radioactive substances, and the heat from power and industrial plants. These are in general and standard sources. These aquatic pollutants come from many sources. Excessive nutrients such as nitrates and phosphates commonly originate in domestic sewage. Runoff from agricultural waste, waste material from animal feedlots, and packing plants. Just check out any Gaushala nearby your home. Just check out the colony from which open sewage water is flowing on. Just check out on the outskirts of your city or your village if there is any industry where the water is going on, and you will find it. So toxic chemicals as agents of water pollution originate in industrial operations, acid mine drainage, surface erosion from strip mines, washing of herbicides and insecticides, radioactive fallout from atomic explosion, very rare, commercial accidents such as oil spills which happens on in the seas, and that is why UPSC asks you a question that how we can go for stopping the oil spillage in the ocean. Spills and the rupture of chemical tanks. So the chemical tanks also, we find that sometimes they are just meeting certain accident on the highways and on outside of cities, and then we have to see what solutions we can give. So besides the pollutants which come from point sources such as sewage, factory or industry, there are many pollutants which come from watershed runoff. Urban and suburban runoff. For example, Bengaluru, if it is suffering huge rains, then what will happen at the end of the day? There is no outlet drainage. Pollutants are there. So many pollutants such as oil, pesticides, radioactive dust, salt, fertilizers and miscellaneous chemicals and nematodes, pathogenic protozoans, bacteria and viruses, they will later on start creating diseases. However, Kimball, Sir in 1975 recognized only three major sources of pollution: domestic, industrial and agricultural. So ecology of water pollution, when we say each type of water pollution affects the abiotic and biotic factors of different aquatic systems in different degrees, and ultimately it affects the men, but then there are drastic impacts in that sense. So there are impact in terms of medical, aesthetic and economic sense. Some of the well-known ecological effects of water pollution are, for example, sewage pollution, very very important for a developing country like India. We are running of smart cities mission, we are running of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, we are also running of the programs like Har Ghar Jal. We are running of programs where we want to streamline city plans, and we want to create highways, we want to create big industrial cities. So it is very important. Contamination of fresh waters and shallow offshore seas by sewage is a common occurrence. Domestic sewage and water wastewater is about 99.9% water and 0.02 to 0.04% of solid waste, which proteins and carbohydrates each comprise 40 to 50% and fats 5 to 10%. That is said by Simmons in 1974. So sewage includes mostly biodegradable pollutants such as human fecal matter, animal waste and certain dissolved organic compounds, carbohydrates, urea and so on. Inorganic salts such as nitrates and phosphates of detergents, sodium, potassium, calcium and chloride ions. Under natural processes, most of the biodegradable pollutants of sewage are rapidly decomposed. That is good thing. But when they accumulate in large quantities, like a city like Delhi, they create a huge problem. When their input into environmental exceeds the decomposition or dispersal capacity of the latter, that is how you come Yamuna having white froth. So Chhat Ghat will also not be able to make any difference. Most of the cities of well-developed countries such as USA and Britain, and some cities of developing countries such as India, have evolved certain engineering systems such as septic tanks, oxidation ponds, filter beds, wastewater treatment plants, municipal sewage treatment plants for the removal of many harmful bacteria and other microbes, organic waste and other pollutants from the sewage before it is tipped into the river or sea. Sewage treatment is usually performed in the following three stages. Primary treatment, which removes large objects and suspended undissolved solids of raw sewage and converts them into biologically inactive and aesthetically inoffensive state. The sludge, a valuable fertilizer. Secondly, we can say that that sludge can also be used, but that you need a supply chain, you need a kind of a system. Secondary treatment, which supplies aeration and bacteriological action to decompose organic compounds into harmless substances such as carbon dioxide, sulfate and water. During the later stages of secondary treatment, whole wastewater is chlorinated. हम कहते हैं पानी में क्लोरीन ज़्यादा डाल दिया, बदबू आ रही है, टेस्ट चेंज हो गया, to reduce its content of bacteria. Tertiary treatment, which removes nitrates and phosphates and releases pure water. These three stages of sewage treatment have become increasingly expensive, and only most advanced countries have all the three treatments of sewage are done. We have to see Indian cities are either lacking sewage or wastewater treatment or have inadequate sewage treatment facilities. Consequently, normally and especially during heavy downpour and floods, raw sewage or incompletely treated sewage is dumped into rivers, which cause severe water pollution. And there are a number of problems in following ways, whether it is Delhi, whether it is Bombay, whether it is Calcutta, every city is facing. So, and think about tier 2 cities, what will happen? Sewage wastes may contain pathogenic bacteria. That is why bacterial and viral contamination is very important. They both are threat to human health. Waterborne diseases such as typhoid, bacillary dysentery, amoebic dysentery, botulism, polymyelitis, hepatitis all represent potential health hazards. Polymyelitis, you have to see whether we have eradicated it completely or not. In sewage contaminated water, it is very important. In eastern UP, when we speak about completely lack of sanitation and very bad conditions, especially because of pig and the swines, then you have elephantiasis also a problem over there, or Japanese foot, which we call. Due to such kind of sewage pollution, water of many ponds, lake, rivers and sea beaches in India and abroad have been prohibited for human use, whether we're drinking, bathing, swimming or all sorts of water recreation. BOD, that is biological oxygen demand, very important, is amount of oxygen required for biological oxidation by microbes in any unit volume of water. The test is done at 20 degrees centigrade for at least 5 days. So BOD value generally approximates the amount of oxidizable organic matter such as sewage and organic waste, animal and human excreta, all of which are called oxygen demanding waste, as I told you. Therefore, used as measure of degree of water pollution and the waste level. So, due to addition of sewage and waste, oxygen levels are depleted, which are reflected in the BOD values of water. The number of microbes such as Ecology, bacterium also increase tremendously, and these also consume most of the oxygen. So the quantity of oxygen in water, called dissolved oxygen or DO, along with BOD is indicated by the kind of organism present in the water. For example, fish becomes rare at DO value of 4 to 5 ppm of water. Further decrease in DO value may lead to increase in anaerobic bacteria. So this is a continuous process. Eutrophication, according to Hutchinson sir, 1969, is a natural process which literally means well nourished or enriched. It is a natural state in many lakes and ponds which have rich supply of nutrients, and it also occurs as a part of the aging process. Very important, aging process in lakes, as nutrients accumulate through natural succession, because it is happening. So we have discussed these concepts and ideas in our previous lectures. Similarly, eutrophication becomes excessive. However, when abnormally high amounts of nutrients from sewage, fertilizer and animal waste and detergents enter streams and lakes, it is causing excessive growth or bloom of microorganisms and aquatic vegetation. Think about Chilka Lake. Think about the lake in Bengaluru. Think about the lake in the southern cities. For example, in Chennai, when we speak about drainage system, it is also very poor. And think about newly coming up cities. Think about new master plans. So we have to be very, very smart if we want to become a Viksit Bharat. Most secondary sewage treatment plants, though precipitate solids and inactivate most bacteria in domestic sewage, yet they do not remove the basic nutrients such as ammonia, nitrogen, nitrates, nitrites and phosphates. These nutrients stimulate algal growth, and it is leading to plankton booms. Travel through railways, travel through roads, cover any big bridges, whether go to Bihar, whether go to Madhya Pradesh, whether go to you know states like Telangana, you will find somewhere big lakes are there and plankton blooms are there. Blue green algae producing obnoxious odors and taste in water. Others such as dinoflagellate blooms or the red tide of the southern coastal regions produce toxic metabolic products which can result in major fish kills. So our wetlands are suffering from this. And even on the top of it, water hyacinth, it is also coming up later on, and it is a huge big problem for us. Plankton blooms of green algae do not always produce undesirable odors or toxic products, but still create problems of oxygen supply in the water. While these blooms exist under abundant sunlight, they contribute oxygen to the water through photosynthesis. But under these conditions of prolonged cloudiness, they begin to decay, consume more oxygen, and with heavy load of oxygen content of the water, they may diminish below and the point where most fish cannot survive. As the conditions in water become anaerobic due to increased oxygen depletion by the bacterial decomposition or plankton blooms, the breakdown products become reduced rather than oxidized. Molecules, oxidized molecules must have been there, but then it is getting reduced. Many of which hydrogen sulfide produce offensive odors and tastes. That is what is actually happening. That is why when we speak about Andamans, we say that there must be planning, there must be less human intervention. We speak about coastal cities, we speak about Kerala, or when we speak about Gujarat, then we have to see what kind of development and how we want to see that our rural population, when it is coming to urban ones, how this sanitary system, how the basic living conditions are being created. Excessive nutrient levels in aquatic system can also cause two other kinds of ecological problems. Primarily, they may lead to extensive growth of aquatic weeds such as Eurasian milfoil, water hyacinth, water chestnut. Very important for prelims. Excessive growth of these weeds can impair fishing, bathing, fish spawning, shellfish production, and even navigation. That is said by Sculthorpe in 1967. Secondarily, nitrates can be converted into human digestive tracked by certain bacteria to nitrites, and some transition may occur in the open cans of food even if they are subsequently refrigerated. Nitrites react with hemoglobin, forming methemoglobin, which will not take up oxygen. Labored breathing and occasional suffocation result most severely, especially in infants. So nitrites may also react with keratin present in vertebrate muscles to form nitrosarcosine, which can be carcinogenic. So this is also a very important fact for the prelims exam. So you can see here how class 3 organisms, class 2 organisms, class 1 organism. This is just a classification, but you have to just see that they are the pollution indicators. Very, very important. You can get one or two names in the prelims examination. So shrimp is very important, or for that matter leech is there, or for that matter red-tailed maggot is there, or for that matter mayfly larva is there. So you must just a cursory look you can have, and you can understand what kind of examples you can put up. So effects of organic pollution on aquatic animal life is very, very important to understand, because it is bringing changes in the faunal composition in a freshwater ecosystem. Nymphs of stoneflies and mayflies are the first to disappear from water which has high organic pollution. As pollution increases, caddisfly larvae, many fish which require high levels of environmental oxygen move into less polluted area upstream. Shrimps, water fleas, leeches, snails, and most of the fish vanish as the pollution becomes severe. At such level pollution, there is very little of dissolved oxygen, and the animal present in chlorinated lava, that is bloodworms, and oligochaete worms like tubifex. Some decomposing plants are known to produce toxins such as strychnine, which kills animals, including cattle. Very, very important for understanding in the prelims exam. Industrial pollution, when we say, most of the Indian rivers and freshwater streams are seriously polluted by industrial waste of effluents. So effluents, what are effluents? Effluents are waste products in liquid form resulting from industrial processes and domestic activities. They are released by different industries such as petrochemical complexes, fertilizer factories, oil refineries, pulp, paper, textile, sugar, steel mills, tanneries, distilleries, coal washeries, and synthetic metal plants for drugs, fibers, rubbers, and plastics. Apart from it, there are some others also, you can make a list. So the industrial waste of these industrial and mill includes metals. What metals you can think of? Copper, zinc, lead, and mercury. Detergents, petroleum, acids, alkalis, phenols, carbamates, alcohols, cyanide, arsenic, chlorine, and many other inorganic and organic toxicants. They are actually there because of the industrial pollution. All of these chemicals of industrial waste are toxic to animals. They may cause death and sublethal pathology, very important keyword, of liver, kidney, and reproductive systems, and respiratory system and nervous system, both in invertebrate and vertebrate aquatic animals. It was said by Wilbur in 1969. So chlorine, which is added to water to control the growth of algae and bacteria in the cooling system of power station, may persist in streams, cause mortality of plankton and fish. You can note this from the prelims exam. Heavy fish mortality in river Son near Dehri on Son in Bihar is reported to be caused by free chlorine content of the chemical waste discharged by factories near Mirzapur in UP. Mercury, such as and other heavy metals such as lead and cadmium, they have cropped up as toxic agents in serious nature. Mercury, a byproduct of the production of vinyl chloride. It is used in many chemical industries and also a byproduct of some incinerators, power plants, laboratories, and even hospitals. In Japan, illness and even death occurred in 1950s among fishermen who ingested fish, crabs, and other shellfish contaminated with methyl mercury from Japanese coastal industries. This mercury poisoning produced crippling and often fatal disease called Minamata disease. Very important. Very important for the prelims. Initial symptoms of Minamata disease include numbness of the limbs, lips and tongue, impairment of motor control, deafness, blurring of vision, cellular degeneration occurred in cerebellum, midbrain, and cerebral cortex, and this led to spasticity, rigidity, stupor, and also coma. Quite recently, Dash and co-workers in 1988, they studied mercury pollution due to effluents of paper mill in the river Ebb of Mahanadi river system in Orissa. The paper mill uses mercury as the cathode in chloralkali electrostatic cells, and mercury leakage can be as high as 200 mg per ton of the chlorine produced. Similarly, analysis of the mercury in some fish shows 500 times of biomagnification. What is biomagnification and bioamplification? We will discuss over the downstream surface. Generally, benthic fish and those higher in food chain accumulated more mercury. So people of the villages who used river water for drinking suffered from disease of eye, skin, rashes, and anemia. You can see this as a case study in ethics also, and try to Google it right now that how pollution control board of the states they are working. You must Google up Central Pollution Control Board and see different kind of strategic measures that's taken up. Thermal pollution, when we see, then we have to see that various industrial processes may utilize water for cooling. Resultant warm water has often been discharged into streams or lakes. Coal or oil fired generators and atomic power plants cause into large amount of waste heat which is carried away as hot water and cause thermal pollution, also known as califaction. This is a very important term, a new term I am introducing to you. Califaction means warming. So thermal pollution produces distinct charges in aquatic biota. A body of water at 30-35 degrees centigrade is essentially a biological desert, and many game fish require temperature of less than 10 degrees centigrade to successful reproduction. Although they will survive, but above that temperature, they will die. So similarly, you can say that a temperature rise of 10 degrees centigrade will double the rate of many chemical reaction, and so the decay of organic matter will take place. The rustic of iron and solution rate of salts are also accelerated by calification. So califaction, as I'm saying, is a very, very important process. The rate of exchange of salts in organisms increase Any toxin is liable to exert great efforts, and temperature fluctuations are likely to affect organisms. Some plants and animals are killed outright by the very hot water. So what we are saying, as the water becomes more hot, then there is a possibility that more organisms will die. We are not saying that suddenly everything will be finished, but it is really harmful. So other adverse effects of aquatic pollution on aquatic life include early hatching of fish eggs, failure of trout eggs to hatch, failure of salmon to spawn, increase in BOD, that is solubility of oxygen is reduced causing deoxygenation, change in diurnal and seasonal behavior and metabolic responses of organisms, significant shift in algal forms and other organisms towards more heat tolerant. So these topics and these kind of impacts we have already studied in our previous lectures, and we can just calculate and just we can deduce that yes, this is true, this can happen, and affect changes in the macrophytes and migration of some aquatic forms. Silt pollution is a result in the intensive agriculture. It is the result of intensive agriculture, earth moving for construction projects, poor conservation practices, downpour resultant floods is the increased production of silt in streams and lakes. So the load of particulate matter cut down the primary productivity, decreasing the depth of light penetration. Silt may also interrupt or prevent reproduction of fish by smoothing eggs laid on the bottom. As far as agrochemicals are concerned, water that flows on surface of crop fields, whereas agrochemicals such as fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides when they are used, they contribute to heavy water and soil pollution in states like Haryana, Punjab, Western UP and even parts of Ganga. Pesticides and weedicides are often used by human beings to control crop diseases by the pest or to kill the weeds, hence to increase the productivity. The use of these toxic chemicals has created health hazards not only for livestock and wildlife but also for fish and other aquatic organisms, birds and mammals including men. Apart from killing the living organisms present on the surface of the soil, they reach even the deeper layers through tilling and irrigation of land, killing still more living forms which might be involved in soil formation or humus formation. For example, earthworms, centipede and millipede. With their continuous use, the soil organisms lose their ability of nitrogen fixation. Moreover, when these chemicals find their way into water supplies, they contaminate and disrupt the aquatic ecosystem as well. So very important what we can see. What is happening at Kali, river at Meerut. So this is an example which you can use in the mains also. At Jamuna in Delhi, at Kanpur, Gomti, Dajora, Damodar, between Bokaro and Panchet. So you have to see and you have to read this whole chart and try to see that why this is happening and what can be the solution. No area of the important area of India we have left out except certain parts of northeast. So you have Balrampur, Suo, Kullu between Bombay and Kalyan, Sivan, Godavari, Kaveri, and Combe, Hadiyar and Buckingham Canal in Madras. So this is how you have to understand, and you have to be confident about understanding the same. Any substance or mixture of substances which prevent, repels or destroys or mitigates any pest is called a pesticide. This is a very simple and profound understanding, the best you can describe. Proved tremendously beneficial to human populations, reducing or eliminating target organisms such as insects, snails, rats and other animals which transmit disease, destroy agriculture crops, damage homes and stored products and directly and indirectly affect human health and welfare. Biomagnification or bioamplification means many pesticides such as DDT, Eldrin, Dieldrin have long life in environment. They have long lifetime in environment. They are fat soluble and generally do not degrade. That is why they are not biodegradable. They get incorporated into food chain and ultimately deposited in the fatty tissues of men and animals. In the food chain, because of their buildup, they get magnified in the higher tropic level, and they are called biological magnification or biological amplification. The pesticides have been in use in last 50 years. The targets are insect pests, fungi, nematodes, rodents, and they are actually focusing upon such insects which are actually damaging crops. But these pesticides have created a great problem for non-targeting. Largely beneficial species such as earthworm, honeybees, fish, amphibia, some reptiles, birds and mammals and even men. The phenomena of biological magnification is also reported from certain other pollutants such as heavy metals, lead, mercury and copper, and radioactive substances that is called radionuclides such as strontium 90. Please do look for the prelims example. So toxicity of pesticides, when we say, it is linked with the toxicity of organochloride pesticides, DDT or dichlorodiphenyl trichloroethane, or hexachlorocyclohexane, chloridane, eldrin, dieldrin, etc. It is lying in their inhibiting nature of sodium ion, potassium ion, magnesium ion, and adenosine triphosphate. Activity in the nerve endings of animals, particularly insects. In the giant axons of cockroach, DDT is known to influence the efflux of potassium ions from the axon. So that is why DDT is even banned. And even those pesticides are also banned which are actually harmful. So DDT and other organochlorine pesticides are absorbed from the intestinal tract, from the alveoli of lungs and also through the skins if the pesticides are in solution. A high concentration of DDT can cause brain damage, centrifugal necrosis of liver, liver enlargement in small mammals, concentration as low as 5 to 10 ppm in diet cause liver damage. In some birds, DDT concentration of 1 to 3 ppm destroys the female sex hormone. Eggshell becomes so thin that the eggs break when the parents sit on them for hatching. So very, very dangerous, very, very harmful. When we speak about marine pollution, the marine ecosystem, sea, oceans, and estuaries are so grand and vast but interacting in various ways with the human life. That is very true. We have discussed that. The oceans are used for navigation, fisheries, agriculture, mining, acquisition of water, naval and military access, as well as for discharge and dumping of variety of wastes. That is happening in India. If you see about coastal regulations, they are broken and Supreme Court will have to intervene. Do look for 3 or 4 judgments and try to make a short note out of it. The ever-increasing range and volume of polluting activities and tend to seriously affect marine production. Marine pollution is most evident in coastal waters and estuarine areas. We have discussed estuarine in details. The oceans have in fact become final setting basin for millions of tons of waste products from human activities. This tremendous burden of pollutants is evidently affecting the health and integrity of world ocean. Due to oceanic pollution, the marine biota has been seriously affected. Costu in 1974 reported 30 to 40% decline in overall productivity of pelagic organisms from shrimps to whales in past 25 years. Look about what is happening in 2024-2025, that is post pandemic. He also observed serious shrinkage of coral reefs in many tropical worlds and displacement of these rich and varied communities with turbid and relatively barren water. Do, do check out the case study of Great Barrier Reef and also in India. There has occurred decline in the population of many fishes due to oceanic pollution. Oil spills have killed water birds, mammals, fish and vegetation. So, oil is the most apparent pollutant of the ocean. It discharges into the sea either deliberately or when the tankers are washed out prior to reloading or accidental spills when the waters are wrecked during war or otherwise. Look about what is happening in the Red Sea as present. In the coastal areas, when the oil spreads on water surface, it clogs the feathers of diving birds, making their flight impossible. White preening themselves in attempts to clear the plumage, they swallow enough oil to poison themselves. Apart from these, oil interferes with the insulation provided by feathers and the bird die of cold or become susceptible to pneumonia. When the oil covers the rock and seaweeds, mollusks and crustaceans growing on them, they will also die. Oil spills on the coasts of seaside resorts drive away holiday markers affecting the economy of the place. Think about Thailand and think about other developed countries where sometimes this thing happens. In India, enactment of Prevention and Control of Water Pollution Act 1974, very important, has helped up to certain extent to prevent water pollution. Adequate legislative measures have been co-opted by each state in order to ensure proper disposal of sewage and industrial waste, prevention of abuse of water resources, recycling of wastewater through proper methods of purification, punishing erring industries which do not install effluent devices in their factories. Do check out Ministry of Science and Environment and how they are trying to implement this. A large number of international and intergovernmental agencies are now busy in controlling marine pollution. Do make a list because headquarters and their nature, whether they are NGO, whether they are having agreement between different countries, whether they are legally binding, you can get always in the prelims exam. A large number of hardly hazardous pollutants are blacklisted and their discharge in the sea is totally prohibited. These are halogenated organic compounds, tin, mercury and cadmium products, radioactive isotopes and carcinogenic materials. Somewhat less toxic substances are grey listed, such as compounds of arsenic, zinc and antimony cyanides, organocyclone silicon compounds, crude oils forming detergents and surfactants. That means there is a list which is actually deciding that how we have to move forward. So the list is both you can say at the global scale, and India is also making efforts in this own way. Realizing the devastation caused by the population of cities, towns and villages of 8 states and union territories located on the coast of river Ganga through its run of more than 2000 kilometers from Gangotri to Gangasagar, that is Bay of Bengal, the government of India launched Ganga action plans. Do check out its present status. You can just Google it and you will find latest developments. To restore its water quality, first phase of this gigantic cleaning operation had been initiated in the year 1985. Think about 1985 and think about 2025. It is still going on. Further, xenobiotics, that is synthetic herbicides and pesticides and fertilizer pose mixing tank rotating biological contractor sand filter challenge to the natural degradative process. So we are trying to use different kind of methods. So judicious and efficient and optimum use of organic manures we are promoting. Certain microbes have been used for breakdown of these synthetic compounds. Specific mechanisms are being evolved in the molecular breeding process to convert chief ingredients of herbicide agents 2,4,5,1 into carbon dioxide and chloride. So that means efforts have to be made, and it is to be seen that how we can actually apply the model and we can then scale it up to the higher levels. When it comes to minimizing land pollution, it is very necessary that industry must install collectors to remove the particulate waste, that is fly ash, from the chimneys. Appropriate methods should be developed to dispose of or utilize other types of water pollutants. Garbage, instead of burning in the open, can be used only to produce an energy but also as filler for cements, bricks, asphalts and pavings. Some of these wastes, if properly sifted and separated, can even be recycled as raw materials for other industries. Another simple method is tipping or open dumping, a common method used in most cities. Then but we have to see the open land filling, whether it is going to help cities like Mumbai or even Delhi or not. What is the long-term solution? Or you have to create the mountains of garbage for which we are not looking for any solution. So do look for the new technologies, which are the new waste to energy technologies, that the task I am giving you, waste to energy technologies, because once you make a list out of it, it is really going to help you. So more satisfactory is the control tipping or the sanitary landfill, which is recently adopted in Delhi for solid waste disposal. But now we are talking about at least 20 to 30 years ago. Now we need a new solution. The sanitary landfill is a better remedy, but in the longer run it also fails because it brings about inexpensive biodegradation of a trash without causing much pollution if the landfill is not very high. In a sanitary landfill of about 2 meters of refuse is covered by at least 23 centimeters of earth, ash and other inert material and up to the level of hole chosen. The chosen hole may be low lying water area or ditches. The land thus reclaimed can be used for making gardens, parks and playgrounds and apartment complexes. Do Google. Indian Express went on to provide awards to an IS officer who went on to create such kind of system in his or her state. Before such filling, the waste can be pulverized by machines to uniform size. By this method, volume of refuse is reduced and some of the refuse is more quickly biodegraded. There are certain persons like Nekchan. Please do check out how this gentleman had done a great deed of job in Chandigarh, who found an aesthetic use of household refuse in constructing the world famous monuments such as Rock Garden of Chandigarh. So what we have done, we have taken up a very standard and a very comprehensive outlook on pollution, air pollution specifically, and other kind of pollution like soil pollution. What we need to do, we need to look for latest developments and technologies. That is what you have to add to the given concepts. And by this, all the lectures which you have done till now, they will make more sense to you, they will bring you more confidence, they will make you more clarity, thereby bringing success in efforts and also making due impact so that you can get success in civil services examination. Thank you very much.